blacks in Detroit could be paid for past racial discrimination and inequities known as transitional justice. The finalists for the Heisman Trophy have been announced. Players that are in the mix for this year's Heisman, awarded annually to the most outstanding player in college football, include Oregon quarterback Bo Nix, Washington QB Michael Penix Jr., LSU signal caller Jaden Daniels, and Ohio State wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Looking for a better way to get around LA? SoCal 511 gives you real-time traffic alerts to help you find faster ways to get around LA County. It's totally free and helps motorists easily find fast track and roadside assistance services. Visit go511.com or dial 511 on your phone.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers are back in action tonight. They play Phoenix at Crypto.com. It's a quarterfinal game in the NBA's in-season tournament. The winner advances to the semifinals in Vegas on Thursday. 7 p.m. tip-off tonight on TNT. This is not a good time for a bye week for Magic Johnson's NFL team, the Washington Commanders. As part owner of the Commanders, Magic will have extra time to think about what's wrong with his team. The 4-9 Commanders are in last place in the NFC East and have lost 4 straight. Magic has watched the Commanders' defense give up 90 points in their last 2 games. Next game for the Commanders is against the Rams on December 17th at SoFi. The transfer portal, otherwise known as free agency for NCAA football, is open. Student athletes have until January 2nd to apply at other schools. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
In association with KBLA Talk 1580, the Terry Claiborne Foundation presents its 26th annual holiday party, Saturday, December 9th, featuring live entertainment, celebrity appearances, plus food and drinks. There is a cover charge for this party of the season, but not if you're one of our special guests. All you have to do is go to our website at KBLA1580.com and sign up. That's it, that's all. Just sign up at KBLA1580.com and you could win entrance to the soiree of the season. But whether you win or not, get a ticket, support the kids, and come join us on the red carpet in your semi-formal club attire and celebrate the season with KBLA Talk 1580 and the Terry Claiborne Foundation as we collect toys for the youth in our community. That's Saturday, December 9th, 1110 South La Cienega Boulevard, just south of Olympic. It's a holiday party with a purpose.
I'm Terry Claiborne. It's going to be a party. Come hang out with us.
Girl, I know this might seem strange, but let me know if I'm out of order for stepping to you this way. See, I've been watching you for a while, and I just gotta let you know that I'm really feeling your style. 'Cause I had to know your name and leave you with my number, and I hope that you would call me someday. If you want, you can give me yours too, and if you don't, well, I ain't mad at you. We can still be cool, girl. I'm not trying to pressure you, just can't stop thinking about you. You ain't even really gotta be my girlfriend. No, no, I just wanna know your name, and maybe sometime we can hook up, hang out, just you.
Music Soul Child, love that brother. One of the many great artists to come out of the city of Philadelphia. And we are heard in Philadelphia on WURD right about now. And I celebrate that, the city of brotherly love and sisterly affection. Glad to have you with us in this hour. What a great show this has been. The first hour was fire today with Ellie Mastall, and that second hour was more fire with George Fathery III. And I expect no less in this hour. I had 2 brothers in the first 2 hours. In this hour, 2 sisters. So it's going to be a great hour. 2 conversations in this hour on the backside, the B side of this hour. We'll talk about the TV show, the CW drama All American, and there's a sister showrunner in charge of that show. Black female showrunners, very rare in this town of Hollywood where I sit. We're heard across the country, of course, but I'm flagshipped in L.A., and I know this all too well. Too few black female showrunners. So we'll talk with one of those austere personalities in this city when we get to the backside of this hour. But we commence this hour with this. Have you ever heard the name Rebecca Crumpler? Rebecca Crumpler. Well, she was the first black female physician in the U.S. and one of the first black folk in America to publish a medical text. Dr. Melody McLeod unpacks right now the legacy of Dr. Rebecca Crumpler, and I'm pleased to have her on this program. Dr. McLeod, how are you today?
I am doing wonderful, Tavis, and I'm just so happy to be with you and your wonderful listening audience and to share the story of a great legendary woman in our community and our society who has blazed the trail that many of us follow.
Well, I'm delighted to have you on to talk about that. So let's just jump right in and make the most of our time. So I'll ask a big, broad question for starters, and we will move through the time that we have. Who was Rebecca Crumpler?
Rebecca Crumpler was first born Rebecca Davis, and she grew up in Delaware. And she was raised by her aunt, who was a caregiver to people in the community. And young Rebecca was so impressed with the caregiving energies from her aunt that it just kind of got into her spirit. So she eventually moved to the Boston area and became a nurse. And we're talking about in the 1800s. Mm-hmm. And she worked as a nurse for a few years, and the doctors were so impressed with her care of her patients, her intellect, her dedication, that they actually recommended that she apply to medical school. So she did that. She applied to what was then called the New England Female Medical College right there in Boston, which later became Boston University School of Medicine.
Mm-hmm.
And based on her those recommendations she received, including from Harriet Beecher Stowe, by the way, Rebecca was accepted into medical school. She matriculated. She finished her course, and she, in 1864, as the Civil War raged, Dr. Rebecca Lee became the first black female physician in the United States.
It's quite a story. How was she received as a physician?
Well, that's interesting because even in her time in Boston while she was in school, from my understanding, I've done a lot of research about her because I'm really trying to make sure we advance her story.
Sure.
She caught some discrimination there in Boston, but the courageous thing about Dr. Rebecca Lee, who later became Dr. Rebecca Crumpler when she married Arthur Crumpler, this woman was so dedicated to her field and the calling of medicine, and it is a calling. When the Civil War ended in 1865, she actually left Boston, went to Virginia, to Richmond, Virginia, to take care of recently freed slaves that the white doctors refused to touch. She worked with what was called the Freedmen's Bureau. It was an organization set up to help restore war-torn communities. So she was a physician with that, and she stayed there for a while. And while she was there in Virginia, again, the white doctors didn't want to touch the recently freed slaves, and some of the people in the profession refused to honor, some of the pharmacists refused to honor her prescriptions, and some of the hospitals refused to allow her admitting privileges to admit patients, but she did the best she could. She worked in tent camps, she lived in tent camps, and took care of thousands and thousands of people for over 3.5 years.
I've said this many times on this program, and I've said it so many times in part because I believe it is part of my mission, Dr. McLeod, to bring to this audience the stories of black excellence and black genius that they might not otherwise be aware of. And this is one of those stories. More when we come forward talking about Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpler, who became the first female black physician in this country back in 1864. And then Dr. McLeod has already raised a few other issues I want to interrogate her on while we have this time. Rebecca Crumpler, Rebecca Lee, started out as a nurse. You just heard us talking to George Favier III about the nurses shortage in this country right now. And you heard Dr. McLeod talk about the calling of medicine. You just heard George Farley III say last hour that this new RA Impact venture is his vocation, his calling. We'll talk about the calling of medicine as we learn more about Dr. Rebecca Crumpler, courtesy of Dr. Melody McLeod, right now on Tavis Smiley.
Hope, agency, dignity. This is Tavis Smiley.
Can you dig it? Come on!
Escalade IQ. This the intro to the all-electric Cadillac, perfection like Zoom. And on a full charge, you get 450 miles without the stop. Haiku. This is what I do. Daddy fat intellect since '92. Linked all the way back, panoramic roof. Coming 24-inch rim standard. Ooh, why? Shawty don't kill him. Cadillac diamond in the back, cold chillin'. And when I'm on attack, on the track is no ceiling. Sky's the limit. You hear me? You hear me? Straight drop, no parachutes. Lay lines like a longitude and latitude. Feel it, beloved, clearly we're hustling, bustin', truckin'. Cadillac, Cadillac, Cadillac.
For more on the Escalade IQ, visit Cadillac.com.
Available late 2024. GM estimate 450-mile range on a full charge based on development testing and/or analytical projection, consistent with NCHA 1634 revision 2017 MCT. Range subject to change prior to production. Annual rates may vary based on service factors, including ambience, temperature, terrain, battery age, and condition loading, and how you use and maintain your vehicle.
Attention Los Angeles County residents, dreaming of owning your own home? Looking for ways to generate income with your home? Or are you behind on payments and need help? Then mark your calendar for December 2nd. Join us at the Opening Doors Planning for the Stages of Home Ownership event at Magic Johnson Park in Willowbrook on December 2nd from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. for workshops, a resource fair, and much more. Attendance is free. We'll have raffle prizes, food, and more. Dive into valuable resources designed to help you navigate the home ownership pipeline. To learn more or to register for the event, please visit our website, dcba.la/openingdoors. Again, that website is dcba.la/openingdoors. See you at Magic Johnson Park on December 2nd. Doors open at 8 a.m. for registration. This message is brought to you by LA County Department of Consumer and Business Affairs.
Diane from Michigan, a disabled senior citizen trying to get by. Henry from Florida, a veteran fighting to make ends meet. Elena from Arizona, a mother struggling to feed her daughter. Hi, I'm Connie Britton, and I support Feeding America because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year, like Diane, Henry, and Elena. Learn more at feedingamerica.org. Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Made fresh daily in the Mert Park, Los Angeles, California. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley, but you're really listening to Dr. Melody McLeod talk about Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpler and how she became the first black female physician in this country, also considered one of the first black folk to publish a medical text. We'll get to that a little bit later in this dialogue with Dr. McLeod. Let me pivot for a second here, or pause for a second, Dr. McLeod, and ask you, how did you come to know about Dr. Crumpler, and how did you get so steeped in learning about her life and her legacy?
Well, that's a great question. As I mentioned, she graduated from what became Boston University School of Medicine, which ironically is the medical school from which I graduated. However, but I did not know of Rebecca Lee Crumpler when I was in medical school. I did not hear her name at the time. When I moved to Atlanta, and we used to have a group called the Rebecca Lee Society, which was basically like a support group for black female physicians. Most of those societies are defunct now. I don't know of any that still exist. So my renewed my interest in her really grew in over the years. After the society, I learned about her. I said, oh, wow, what a wonderful woman. And in 2013, and this is how my new energy about her began, one of the reps from BU School of Medicine came to Atlanta, I guess looking for money from alumni, and he told me that they had begun setting up historical exhibits at BU School of Medicine. So I said to him, I said, oh, really? I said, oh, well, do you have one for Dr. Rebecca Crumpler? So he hemmed and hawed, and, well, no, we really don't. I said, well, why not? You know, I said, she was the first black female physician, and she graduated from BU Med. So that kind of began everything, and I have to admit, I said, we have to make this happen. So I initiated and humbly say I co-funded a permanent historical exhibit in her name at Boston University School of Medicine. So that was in 2013 that I initiated it. It was set up in 2016. And I thought I was finished with it at the time after the unveiling, but then when, you might remember the story, the then Governor Ralph Northam in 2019, he was going through this blackface scandal.
I remember it well.
Remember
it well, yes.
Okay, so when I heard of his story, Virginia, blackface scandal, the black communities ticked off with him, I said, Rebecca served Virginia, the Commonwealth, very, very well during very difficult times. So I contacted his office, and I said, you know what? Why not provide a little salve to the black community? So I shared her story, and I was able to secure from him, the governor, then governor, a proclamation in Dr. Rebecca Crumpler's name for Doctor's Day in March 2019. March 30th every year is Doctor's Day. So March 30th, 2019, he declared it Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpler Day in the Commonwealth of Virginia. So that was that part. Now, then after that, I thought I was through. But the work never ends, and it's perfectly fine with me because some people picked up on that story, and then in Boston, people realized, Friends of the Hyde Park Library realized that Dr. Crumpler and her husband did not have a headstone where they were buried. And fortunately, from some of my writings in the Globe, Boston Globe, and some other places, they were able to get money from the 4 medical schools in Boston and some other people, and they initiated this headstone initiative. And so now Rebecca Lee Crumpler, MD, and her husband have headstones, and I was able to get her story on NBC Nightly News and on CNN podcast with Dr. Sanjay Gupta, et cetera, et cetera.
It's I didn't want to interrupt. I did not want to interrupt, in part because I love, as this audience knows, I love the backstory. It's the story is one thing. The fascinating stuff, the good stuff, is always in the backstory, and that's why I always ask these sort of backstory questions. And this reminds me of what I've said so many times on this program. I just said it yesterday, I think it was, that sometimes in our lives we have to assign ourselves. This stuff just doesn't happen unless somebody assigns themselves to do the work and the witness. Somebody has got to do it. But for somebody assigning himself or herself or theirself to do it, then these stories remain hidden forever. And that's why we all love that movie, Hidden Figures, because so many of us were just unaware of the story of these black women and all they had done at NASA. And so now, in great part, thanks to Dr. Melody McLeod, we are learning more about the first black female physician in this country, Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpler, but only because, as you heard her say without my interruption, that she assigned herself to the task of pushing others to put some respect on the name of Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpler, and we are all indebted to her and grateful that she did. Let me just ask you, watching my time here, you were telling me earlier in answer to my question about how she was treated once she became, or maltreated, how she was regarded as a black female physician in the 1800s, 1864 to be exact. You answered that question for me, but it leads me to ask, given the sort of disrespect that still came her way, being a black female physician way back then, who were in fact her patients?
Well, we're trying to dig out and see who they were, but some women in the community, her care was mostly focused on women in the community. So obviously people learned of her and knew of her and went to her.
Right.
Who they were and all that, we don't know. And you know what's sad about the whole story is this, one, that a lot of people don't know her story, so thank you for giving me a chance to speak about her. And what you just said about assigning ourselves to the work and the work I'm trying to do, you almost made me cry just then, but I'll try to stay cool while we're talking. There is no certifiable photograph of Dr. Rebecca Crumpler. If you go online, not now, just keep listening, but if you go online, you will see her name associated with various different people's photographs. But we have searched and searched, and we cannot find a photograph of Dr. Crumpler. So that just hurts my heart. I'm still digging as best I can. But she must have garnered some reputation. You know, word of mouth goes a long way, especially, you know, in the community. You know, it's the word of mouth spreads. So people learned of her and went to her.
Yeah, I hope and pray that in time, to your point, there will be a photo of her. But I was just, you were saying a moment ago, it almost made you cry. You almost made me cry for a different reason when you gave me that answer, because you think of all that she endured to become the first black female physician in 1864, and here we are in 2023 searching just to find an image of her, given all that she endured, all that she had to navigate, in part because of her vocation, her calling, and to consider that here we are all these years later just trying to find a credible, legitimate, authentic photo of her is enough to just trouble the waters of my soul and my spirit. So I digress on that point. You made this comment earlier that medicine for you, in fact, is a calling. It is your avocation. As I said, we were just talking about this with our guest in the last hour of this program. Clearly, if that's what it is for you, it was certainly that for her as well, yes?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I give this woman my utmost respect because she did something I don't even think I could do. And to be a physician really is a calling. You just feel it in your spirit. And fortunately for me, if I may just say this, I was blessed when I was a little girl to have had a black female pediatrician. We're talking about in the 1960s, okay? I'm an old broad here, okay? Dr. Doris Weathers, I'll give her name, Dr. Doris Weathers.
Sure.
She was my pediatrician when I was a little girl. And I used to love to go to her office, and for some odd reason, I used to love to smell the alcohol in the air. And I'm not talking about drinking alcohol. It was the rubbing alcohol in the air. And I remember hearing occasionally when I remember hearing people say that she helped people feel better. And I that touched me for some kind of way. So to see that you can be that and to tag into that, when I was in high school, I remember after a PTA meeting, my high school history teacher, who was also the vice principal of my school at Mother Cabrini High School in New York, I remember her telling my mother, make sure she takes typing because black people don't become doctors. But I already knew better because I had Dr. Weathers. Ha! Praise the Lord. I already knew better, woman. I already knew better.
I love that. I love that story, and I'm kind of tickled by, and also just arrested by, your commentary about what you were hearing in the doctor's office as just a little girl, and it just again it underscores for me the ways in which our minds, our hopes, our dreams, our aspirations are either formed and given the freedom to become legitimate, or they are foreclosed on based on what we hear and see when we are in our adolescence. And so here you, all these years later, become a physician because you heard folk even then say that what the pediatrician did, Dr. Weathers, was to make people feel better. And just hearing that what she does is to make people feel better, resonated in your spirit, and this ends up being your vocation all these years later. But it's just an amazing story on, again, how young black minds and spirits and souls and hearts are conditioned or not based on what they see and hear in those formative years. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, and that's why, I mean, because who knows, there may have been some other children in there that heard that and that didn't faze them. Maybe something else would appeal to their spirit, you know what I mean? Which is why I feel, too, we have to be mindful about we in this modern society with all of what's happening, and we won't even get into all that. That may be a whole other conversation. we have got to be mindful about what we are putting out there for our young people to hear,
That's right.
to see, to witness. What examples are we putting out there? Let's show them other things that we can be. And we can be so many things.
Sure.
We just have to show someone that, yes, you can. Yes, you can do other things. So, yes, that appealed to my spirit. Maybe it didn't appeal to someone else, but that snagged my spirit. And fortunately, I followed through with that. I became a candy striper, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm.
I mentioned that Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpler, is the first black female physician in this country, but also considered one of the first black folk to publish a medical text. Tell me about that part of the story.
Yeah. She wrote a book that she entitled A Book of Medical Discourses in 2 parts. It was basically dedicated to the care of women and children.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what inspired her. In fact, what she said was, in the book, she says, she said, my chief desire in presenting this book is to impress upon somebody's mind the possibility of prevention. Okay, so she knew she had a few very interesting quotes. That's one. She wanted to impress upon patients in society's mind the importance of prevention. And another thing she said, which speaks to, you're talking about a calling of medicine. She said, I early conceived a liking for and sought every opportunity to be in a position to relieve the suffering of others. And to me, that really speaks to what that is our calling, to relieve the suffering of others. When I read that, I just oh my God, speak, woman, say it, preach.
As you say prevention, my mind goes to this, and this is my indictment of our system of medicine in this country, that so much of what we spend money on vis-a-vis healthcare is not prevention. You think of all the turmoil that black women in particular, since we're talking about black women, Dr. Crumpler, Dr. McLeod. You think of all the things that black people get afflicted with, in part because we don't prioritize prevention. I'm juxtaposing that reality with her words.
Yes, and prevention is important, and yeah, there are some things truly to indict the medical profession about. There are a lot of things happening right now. Medicine is not what it used to be, and really what I feel what it needs to be.
Right.
However, and if I may interject here,
sure.
I think too we have to be. We are the stewards of our bodies.
Sure.
Okay, and there's information out there. And oddly, and we'll get into this, I think, next year, I actually have written a book, too, right now about black women's health called Black Women's Wellness. But we have got to be proactive about our health, okay?
Nope.
You've got to be your own best advocate. We know that we as a people are at high risk of diabetes and obesity and hypertension and maternal mortality. And the number one reason why we have such high black maternal mortality, yes, there's implicit bias. Yes, sometimes the doctors may not hear us, but the number one reason why we are losing so many black mothers and black babies is because, unfortunately, and I want the sisters to listen to me, and the men who love us, we do not start prenatal care early.
Nope, I get it.
Okay.
We will. No, I hear you. We will hold that conversation for the next time, and I would be delighted to have a conversation with you about your book, Black Women's Wellness. So we'll put that on the docket somewhere down the road in 2024, if the Lord says the same, as we say in my church. So if the Lord says the same, we'll do that on the next go round. But I certainly want to thank you now, Dr. Melanie McLeod, for bringing us the story of Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpler, the first black female physician in this country, and also put out one of the first medical books by an African-American. It's a great story, and I'm glad you shared it with us. And we will talk again down the road about Black Women's Wellness. But thank you for your time, and happy holidays.
I'm so glad you gave me the opportunity to talk about Dr. Rebecca Crumpler. She's a wonderful trailblazer, and thank you so much for all that you do in the community for all these years, Tavis. Thank you.
You are too kind. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
What's your quarrel with the world? You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
What's up, party people? It's your favorite MC's favorite rapper, MC Light here. And we're celebrating 50 years of hip-hop, authentically powered by Cadillac. And we're going to take it way back to where it started. It was only fitting that hip-hop began with teenagers at a back-to-school jam in the rec room of a South Bronx apartment complex by an 18-year-old brother. By the way, I'm also sure he had a Cadillac parked outside. He noticed the energy on the dance floor when he switched between two turntables, extending the beats, repeating the breaks, and never losing the rhythms. And that was the birth of hip-hop. And from that moment, it took off.
For more on how Cadillac is celebrating hip-hop's 50th, visit Cadillac.com/audacity.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. I'm Mike Moore. Now here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Funding for Ukraine is running out, according to the White House. In a letter to congressional leaders, the administration said it will run out of funds to provide weapons to Ukraine in its fight against Russia without congressional action by the end of the year. The White House called on Congress to act on a supplemental funding request that includes aid for both Ukraine and Israel. In Illinois, a Chicago teen has earned a doctor's degree. 17-year-old Dorothy Tillman already has her high school diploma, her bachelor's degree, a double master's, and now her doctor's from Arizona State University. The African-American teenager says her goal is to create a space for the sake of future generations. She created the Dorothy Gina STEAM Leadership Institute. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Looking for a better way to get around LA? SoCal 511 gives you real-time traffic alerts to help you find faster ways to get around LA County. It's totally free and helps motorists easily find fast track and roadside assistance services. Visit go511.com or dial 511 on your phone.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers are back in action tonight. They play Phoenix at Crypto.com. It's a quarterfinal game in the NBA's in-season tournament. The winner advances to the semifinals in Vegas on Thursday. 7 p.m. tip-off tonight on TNT. This is not a good time for a bye week for Magic Johnson's NFL team, the Washington Commanders. As part owner of the Commanders, Magic will have extra time to think about what's wrong with his team. The 4-9 Commanders are in last place in the NFC East and have lost 4 straight. Magic has watched the Commanders' defense give up 90 points in their last 2 games. Next game for the Commanders is against the Rams on December 17th at SoFi. The transfer portal, otherwise known as free agency for NCAA football, is open. Student athletes have until January 2nd to apply at other schools. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
JP Morgan Chase is building on the investments in California to help close the racial wealth gap and build a more equitable future. Visit jpmorganchase.com/racial equity and get the tools to help reach your financial goals.
Boost Infinite's new wireless technology gives you 3 networks for the price of 1 and better service at a lower price. Switch today. Visit boostinfinite.com. That's boostinfinite.com.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Race, culture wars, political turf battles, criminal justice and injustice, the courts. These are the conversations you won't hear elsewhere. My guests are leading journalists, celebrities, and sports figures, elected leaders, and influencers. They aren't afraid to get into it and say the quiet part out loud. With Ariva Martin in real time, your commute just became the most engaging part of your day. Tune in weekdays from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. or find us on YouTube. Ariva Martin in real time, when you want it straight, no chaser.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
Celebrate Southern California's health equity heroes at California Black Health Network's 40th anniversary event at Hotel Indigo's 18 Social, Thursday, December 7th, 6 to 9 p.m. Join us as we celebrate 40 years of advancing health equity for Black Californians and honor local organizations like Black Women for Wellness, the California Black Women's Health Project, Riverside County PEI, and the African American Infant and Maternal Mortality Project, December 7th. Buy your tickets now at cablackhealthnetwork.org.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look. And unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So, let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California, once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at a gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
People change. People grow, especially at college.
We're not the same people we were in high school.
You're swimming with the big fish now. Remember that. Coming home can be triggering. Suddenly you're reverting back to the old you and you don't even know it.
Did you know Simone is back for Christmas?
Christmas is a time for coming together and forgiveness and stuff. My man, did Spencer just vote to throw a party?
I've dreamed about this moment for so long.
Okay.
Y'all either together or y'all not. You gotta figure that out.
I would never ask you to give up anything for me.
Everybody yell, no justice, no peace. There isn't any other investigative piece that you could write about? Why does it have to be Spencer's team?
You ready to get back on my field?
That's what we do best, right?
Our relationship is our business.
You got a bad feeling about Coach Gary. If we're right, this could decimate the entire football program.
All-American. We were just talking on this program, by the way, in case you've just tuned in, I'm Tavis Smiley, and I'm delighted to have you with us in the last half hour of our program today. We were just talking, though, about powerful, strong, brilliant, beautiful black women like Rebecca Lee Crumpler. We learned today that Rebecca Lee Crumpler was the first black female physician in this country back in 1864, one of the first to publish a medical book. I ain't mad at Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpler, and appreciate Dr. McLeod for coming on to share more with us, I should say, about the legacy of this first black female physician. And speaking of black women, black female showrunners in Hollywood, where I sit today, are pretty rare. Nkechi Okoro-Carroll is a writer, actor, and exec producer of the CW drama. You just heard some sound from the CW drama called All American, and I am pleased to welcome Nkechi to this program. How are you today?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much. How are you?
If I complained, I'd be an ingrate. I am doing quite well, and I'm delighted to have you on and to celebrate your success. I hear that accent already. You were not born in Compton, California. I can tell by the accent.
I was not. I was actually, I was born in New York, in Queens, Jamaica Estates, and then my family is Nigerian, and so we moved back to Nigeria when I was 4 years old, and then moved to the Côte d'Ivoire next door when I was 8, and that became home for forever. Went to boarding school in England, became very British, came back to the States for college, and now I have the accent I have.
Yeah. What does all that moving around, and I love, and I say this all the time, I think that one of the best ways to be educated is travel, and I'm always telling people that you got to get out, and there's so many reasons. There's so many reasons for getting out. One, as I've said repeatedly, you can't appreciate this country for what it is, and you can't critique it for what it's not. It seems to me, and believe me, I've got some critiques and some rebukes, but you got to get out to see it from the outside. As I've said before, when you're on the parade, you can when you're on the float rather, you can't see the parade. You got to get off the float sometimes, so you can see the entire parade and critique it in whatever way you're going to critique it. But that's a long way of asking what the takeaway is from moving around the world in the way that you did to who you are today.
I mean, it was such an unbelievable experience, and I didn't realize at the time that wasn't normal because that was all I knew.
Mm-hmm.
And similar to my cousins and friends, there were a lot of us in West Africa who were sort of based there but going to boarding schools either in the U.S. or in England. And in any given year, we were on 3 different continents. And again, it was all I knew. So to me, that felt normal, being a global citizen, feeling like the world was my oyster, sort of getting comfortable in different cultures so easily. All of that I thought was how everyone else was raised until I got to college and realized, oh, no. What I had was special, and I'm grateful for it.
Oh, it's very,
for sure.
very special. And how does your being a global citizen allow you, or through what prism as a global citizen do you see the world and all of its madness in real time?
I mean, I feel like I because of how I was raised, I have an innate ability to sort of put myself in another culture and look at what is happening from their perspective. It's so easy for us to sit where we are and sort of comment on what's happening in the world from our place of privilege. No matter, even as Black Americans, there's still a place of privilege compared to a lot of what's happening outside of this country in the world. And I think it's so easy to pass judgment on that. Have you not lived in that place, experienced that culture, experienced the sort of different things that are happening from their perspective? And that's the thing that I think I'm most grateful for. And I don't know, maybe it's responsible for my empathy. Maybe I would have been an empathetic person regardless, but I feel like going in and out of so many cultures and so many continents in any given year, to the point where it was normalized in my brain that that's just what you do from a very young age, I think very much shaped how I approach people and their stories and their lives. And it's honestly what I want most for my kids. I'm raising 2 Black boys in America. And more than anything, I'm like, we need to get you out and seeing the world beyond islands, but actual, real countries, cities, cultures, so that they, again, like you said, you can't critique or be grateful for if you haven't experienced anything outside of this. And I want them to be global citizens and not just, Black American.
Nope. I am pushing my way toward the stories that you tell, and you understand why this backstory, this foundation is so important to me, because it will help people understand better how you become a showrunner and the stuff that you are running. Let me ask this question right quick and we'll move forward. Given that you have, I want to be gentle here. Given that you have lived amongst and walked amongst both the colonizers and the colonized, you see where I'm going here. You've lived in Nigeria and Cote d'Ivoire. You lived in England. So you've lived and walked and worked amongst the colonized and the colonizers. What do I make of that? What do I take away from that?
You know what's interesting? I actually never. It wasn't until I came to the States that I was actually that it was really sort of thrown in my face that I was other. Growing up in Nigeria, growing up in the Cote d'Ivoire, even when I was leaving to go to boarding school in England and come back, there was such a sense of power and self and the ability to be anything I wanted, because everyone around me looked like me. The presidents looked like me. The bankers looked like me. The janitor workers looked like me. The teachers looked like me. So the world was my oyster. There was never any feeling of being less than. And then when I went to boarding school in England, and you get all the nonsense, and it's like, oh, do you guys live in huts and trees, and do you? But by then there was such a foundation of who I was that I always saw it as their ignorance, not mine. And I always, even at 11 years old, which is how old I was when I first left for boarding school for 7th grade, that there was I'd been raised with such a sense of power that it didn't faze me. I was just like, oh, you need to be educated. Copy, got that. That's part of why I'm here. And so it really didn't become a thing until I came back to the States for college. And there was and I had a really strong British accent at the time. So there was such oh, you can't be Black and British, or oh, there was so much you can't be. And I'm like, listen, I don't know what's going on here. I don't know what happened in your youth, but I can be all the things with all the accents and anything I want to be. And so it was such an interesting way to be sort of reintroduced to what it means to be Black in America from all this perspectives.
So the thing I'm cracking up about is that you have all these experiences, and your name is Nkechi Okoro Carroll, and you end up being a showrunner for a program called All American. If that ain't funny, I don't know what is. We'll unpack that when we come forward with Nkechi on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking. That's what we do around here. You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Environmental justice, pollution, and climate. In Los Angeles and across America, people of color are suffering and dying from disproportionate health impacts on a planet that has less than 10 years to prevent irreversible damage. Heat illnesses, respiratory illnesses, water-related illnesses, food system impacts, insect-related diseases, Black maternal health, and mental health effects. As the impacts of climate change mount, millions of vulnerable people, our people, are going to bear the brunt of these extreme environmental events, which will likely lead to forced displacement, loss of cultural identity, and other related risks. These realities are as real as rain. Stay tuned to KBLA Talk 1580 for more details about the most progressive multimedia and live events campaign any Black media outlet has ever undertaken to combat the climate catastrophe. Experts, events, empowerment. It's all on the way from unapologetically progressive KBLA Talk 1580. We don't black down. We level up.
Level up, 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 level up.
I learned patience from my adoptive dad. All he had to say was,
"Hey, you got this. Just breathe." Hey, we're pretty good.
Yeah.
Might have to start a band.
I got it.
Learn about adopting a teen from foster care. You can't imagine the reward. Visit adoptuskids.org to find out more. This message is brought to you by Adopt US Kids, the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, and the Ad Council.
Sounds different, huh? This is Tavis Smiley.
Trying to manage my time is getting away from me with our guest, Nkechi Okoro Carroll. Again, Black female showrunner is very rare in Hollywood, but she's one of them doing quite well, whether it's All American or All American Homecoming or Found, her new show. She's a busy sister, but she took out 30 minutes at least to talk to us about the stuff she's working on. So, Nkechi, how does one with all of that experience end up producing a show called All American? I thought it was pretty funny, actually.
Well, two things. One is, the All-American title in sports, is synonymous with a level of excellence, right?
Sure.
And so us Nigerians are known for being very loud and proud about sort of our work ethic and, the level of excellence we demand of ourselves and that our parents demand of us as we pursue whatever field it is. And so from that perspective, I understood the heart of All-American, the heart of a young boy with what should be an impossible dream who's unwilling to let it go and do everything it takes to make it to the NFL. For me, it was making it from Nigeria to being a showrunner in Hollywood. That's a crazy dream that should feel impossible for someone like me, and yet here I am. And so from that level, I absolutely related to the idea for that show. And then also my son is Spencer James, except with basketball. And so I am raising a young student athlete who has a dream of playing professional basketball and has put his everything into it, and watching that and how he navigates that in high school. Yeah. I mean, he often complains I'm putting his life on the screen, and I'm like, no comment.
Tell me about your new show, Found.
Thank you. My new show, Found, it's a missing person show on NBC, but it's so much more than that because it's really a show about finding the missing people that the rest of the country has deemed disposable. Right. Mm-hmm. So, of course, that starts with our black girls, right? Our black and brown girls, and that it's any marginalized community. It's the LGBTQ plus community. It's our indigenous brothers and sisters. There's a certain profile of person that tends to get the most media attention when they go missing. We can all recite their name.
Oh, yeah.
But then if you're like, there was a young missing black girl in D.C., everyone looks at you sort of with a blank face. No one can pull that name. No one can pull that face. And if we don't know them, we can't look for them. Yeah. And I was very frustrated by that in real life. And so, I see my keyboard as my weapon of choice. And so I was like, what can I do with my art to draw attention to this so that our kids are making it home safe, so that our brothers and sisters and parents are making it home safe? And that was where the idea for Found came from.
I just love how you, very quickly here, I just love how you flip the frame. The frame is always children, people missing. You flip it and call it Found, which I thought was pretty brilliant.
Absolutely, because I need light at the end of the tunnel. I need rainbows and unicorns and gummy bears and all the things. So if I was going to do a show like this that by nature is sort of heartbreaking when you think about people being taken or missing, but I wanted to have light at the end of the tunnel, it's called Found for a reason, because I want to focus on these marginalized communities receiving their joy. They deserve happy endings just as much as anyone else. Well, and there is a sort of thriller through line in the show, but because, I got to keep the audiences coming back.
There you go. We will have a happy ending when we come forward in our remaining moments with Nkechi Okoro-Carroll, one of the rare black women showrunners in Hollywood, who you're listening to right now on Tavis Smiley.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom. If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
In association with KBLA Talk 1580, the Terry Claiborne Foundation presents its 26th annual holiday party, Saturday, December 9th, featuring live entertainment, celebrity appearances, plus food and drinks. There is a cover charge for this party of the season, but not if you're one of our special guests. All you have to do is go to our website at KBLA1580.com and sign up. That's it, that's all. Just sign up at KBLA1580.com and you could win entrance to the soiree of the season. But whether you win or not, get a ticket, support the kids, and come join us on the red carpet in your semi-formal club attire and celebrate the season with KBLA Talk 1580 and the Terry Claiborne Foundation as we collect toys for the youth in our community. That's Saturday, December 9th, 1110 South La Cienega Boulevard, just south of Olympic. It's a holiday party with a purpose.
I'm Terry Claiborne. It's going to be a party. Come hang out with us.
KBLA Talk 1580 is the exclusive media sponsor of this light of ours, activist photographers of the Civil Rights Movement. A dynamic new exhibition on view now at the Skirball Cultural Center in Los Angeles. This light of ours showcases more than 150 photos taken by movement insiders from diverse backgrounds that reveal the vital work undertaken by a broad coalition of organizers and everyday people whose collective action changed America. This light of ours is one of 3 temporary exhibitions currently on view at the Skirball, which together explore issues related to civil rights, immigration, and pluralism. Tickets and more information for all 3 exhibitions are available at skirball.org. That's skirball.org. SKIRBALL.org.
Ready to re-examine your assumptions and expand your inventory of ideas? More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
So, in KG, I just got about 4 minutes left here, and I want to cover a few things right quick here. What is it like? What is it like navigating Hollywood as a black woman showrunner?
Oh my goodness! You said we have 4 minutes.
Yeah, I know. That's not fair. That's not fair.
You know what? You know what I'll say is mentorship and having people who believed in me to the point where they wouldn't take any of the nonsense and helped me force those doors open. Has absolutely been the secret sauce to my success. And it's why I feel so strongly about mentorship and giving back, and it's why it's a requirement at my production company and, quite frankly, on any of my shows that anyone who works on them in any department must give back in terms of bringing up the next generation behind them, because it is what was done. People like Gina Prince Bythewood, people like Reggie Bythewood, Greg Berlanti, Zoanne Clack, they all were so instrumental in making sure, Yvette Lee Bowser, making sure these opportunities were, I was given the opportunities to sort of show what I can do and run with it. Yeah. And so, that's been such the positive side of sort of being a black female showrunner and being welcomed into sort of this elite group. Yeah. And Tavis, I love what I do. I am so grateful to do what I do. I love my job, even with the stresses and everything that come with it. Yeah. I get to put stories that matter and that change the world in people's households, and hopefully maybe change a heart or two along the way. And that's quite frankly all I can ask for.
No, loving what you do is more than half the battle. And it's I was just reading some stats the other day, as a matter of fact, in KG, reading some stats about the average American worker, and the numbers are startling. I mean, it's like in the 80th percentile of Americans who hate their jobs. I mean, the overwhelming number of folk in this country literally hate the jobs they go to every day. So if you go to a job every day or do the work and witness that you're engaged in, for you it's not a job, it's your vocation, your calling, your purpose.
Absolutely.
If you love that, and that's half the battle right there. So I celebrate the fact that you love it so much. Let me ask you right quick about, speaking of paying it forward, tell me quickly about Black Women Who Brunch.
So, yes, I started a black female TV writers group called Black Women Who Brunch. I founded it with Lena Waithe and Erica Johnson, who are, everyone knows who Lena is. Two phenomenal black female writers in this business as well. And we started it when we were very young in our careers because we were so frustrated with people sort of telling us we were the unicorns and that they couldn't find other black women like us. And we knew that was nonsense. As much as we are good at what we do and love what we do, we knew others like us, but we couldn't roll their names off our tongues. And so we decided to do something about it. And so it started as 12 women in my living room 9 years ago, and it is now 260 working black female TV writers, everything from baby staff writers all the way up to executive producers. So I don't ever want to hear anyone tell me they can't find a black female writer in TV.
You can find her. Just Google her, and you'll learn a great deal more about her than I had time to even empower you with. Her name is Nkechi Okoro Carroll. That's spelled Nkechi Okoro, Okoro, Carroll. Nkechi Okoro Carroll is her name. You've seen it on the credits many times if you're watching her stuff, and many people obviously are watching her stuff given all the success she has had and continues to have. This was a short conversation, Nkechi. We got to do this again when you got more time.
Anytime. Thank you so much for having me, Tavis.
Good to have you on. All the best to you. And just like that, our 3 hours is up for today. Thanks for tuning in to Tavis Smiley. Back here tomorrow, Lord willing, to do it all over again. Until then, thanks for tuning in. And as always, keep the faith.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Thank you for joining us, everyone. I'm Mike Moore. Now here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Funding for Ukraine is running out, according to the White House. In a letter to congressional leaders, the administration said it will run out of funds to provide weapons to Ukraine in its fight against Russia without congressional action by the end of the year. The White House called on Congress to act on a supplemental funding request that includes aid for both Ukraine and Israel. In Illinois, a Chicago teen has earned a doctor's degree. 17-year-old Dorothy Tillman already has her high school diploma, her bachelor's degree, a double master's, and now her doctor's from Arizona State University. The African-American teenager says her goal is to create a space for the sake of future generations. She created the Dorothy Gina STEAM Leadership Institute. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Looking for a better way to get around LA? SoCal 511 gives you real-time traffic alerts to help you find faster ways to get around LA County. It's totally free.